In the first moments of crisis, most people default to command. They raise their voice, they give orders, they demand attention, their authority a brittle performance that cracks under the slightest pressure. This is the way of the modern world. But there exists another path, forged in the quiet dojos and subdued courts of ancient Japan. A form of influence so profound, it requires no command at all. Imagine a leader so composed, so internally resolved, that their mere presence in a room calms the chaos and focuses every mind, not through words, but through being. This is not manipulation. This is not performance. This is the anatomy of natural authority, a state the samurai called iki. And it begins not with controlling others, but with an unshakable command of the self. We begin our journey with a man named Kenji. In the modern battlefield of a corporate boardroom, Kenji was failing. As a newly promoted manager, he believed leadership was about decisiveness, about clear directives and enforcing outcomes. Yet the more he spoke, the more his team seemed to drift. His directives were met with silent compliance, but no real fire. In moments of stress, his voice would tighten, his gestures becoming abrupt. He could feel the respect he so desperately wanted slipping through his fingers like sand. He was giving commands, yet he had no true authority. His struggle mirrors that of a young, overeager samurai, sword always drawn, who cannot understand why the master swordsman moves through the world with his blade sheathed. The problem was not his strategy, but his very center. He was trying to move the world, when true leadership requires you to be the unmovable ground upon which the world turns. To understand this, we must travel to the heart of samurai philosophy, to the concept of Jinkaku. Jinkaku translates not merely to character, but to a fully integrated personhood. It is the moral and ethical stature of an individual, cultivated through relentless self-discipline. The great daimyo Tokugawa Ieyasu did not command loyalty through charisma alone, but through a perceived depth of character that made following him seem the only rational course. His authority was a gravitational pull, not a shouted order. Jinkaku is built on the twin pillars of the sword and the brush, of bu and bun, martial prowess and scholarly cultivation. A leader with Jinkaku possesses a calm that stems from competence, a silence that speaks of considered thought, and an integrity that is as visible as a banner. This is the foundation. Without it, any attempted authority is merely a mask, and masks, under pressure, always slip. Chapter 1. The Stillness at the Center. Kenji's awakening came not from a success, but from a humiliating failure. A critical project was unraveling, deadlines looming, and in a pivotal meeting, he succumbed to panic. His words came out in a rushed, scattered torrent. He pointed fingers, his voice cracking with frustration. The room went cold. Later, one of his senior team members, a woman of few words, approached him not with a complaint, but with an observation. She said, "When the storm comes, the shallow reed thrashes and breaks. The deep-rooted oak does not move." She wasn't quoting philosophy. She was describing what she saw. And in that moment, Kenji saw himself clearly. He was the thrashing reed. This was his hitokiri, his manslayer moment. Not the killing of another, but the severing of his own ignorant self. He realized he had been obsessed with the external trappings of leadership, while neglecting the internal citadel. Here we find the first principle of natural authority. Fudoshin, the immovable heart. In Kenjutsu, the way of the sword, Fudoshin is the state of total mental and emotional composure. It is a spirit that remains unshaken by fear, anger, or confusion. Miyamoto Musashi, in his Dokodo, wrote, "Do not let your heart be swayed by the things of the world." This is not suppression of emotion, but a profound mastery over it, achieved through the forge of discipline. The leader with Fudoshin does not react, they respond. Their calm is not an absence of urgency, but a presence of depth. For Kenji, building this stillness meant a daily surrender. He began with 10 minutes of seated silence each morning, not to clear his mind, but to observe its chaos without being swept away. He practiced breathing, not as a relaxation technique, but as a martial art, steadying his spirit before every interaction. The goal was not to feel calm, but to become calmness itself. Chapter 2. The action that replaces the command. With the foundation of stillness, the second pillar emerges, ji, or righteous action. In the Bushido code, ji is the power of doing what is right, without hesitation or need for recognition. For the leader, this translates to a principle of impeccable action. Your behavior, your decisions, your work ethic, these become your primary language. Consider the sensei in the dojo. He does not yell at students to be disciplined. Instead, he arrives first, his GI spotless, his bows precise, his own practice ferociously focused. His authority is embedded in his action. He commands without speaking, because his example is the command. This is the essence of Iki, a refined, unobtrusive excellence that organically draws respect. Kenji began to dismantle his old model. He stopped dictating how his team should work. Instead, he focused solely on the quality of his own contributions. He prepared for meetings with exhaustive depth, his briefs becoming models of clarity. When mistakes were made, his first action was to examine his own role in the miscommunication, taking responsibility before assigning it. He stopped chasing credit and began protecting his team from external blame. These were not announced policies. They were silent, non-negotiable actions. The change was not instantaneous, but slowly, a shift occurred. His team began to mirror his preparedness. They brought more rigorous work to the table, not because he demanded it, but because the standard had been silently set. His action had created a new ecosystem. Chapter 3. The Silence That Speaks. Volumes. The third element is the most counterintuitive to the modern mind. Chinmoku, strategic silence. In the courts of the Kamakura shogunate, the most powerful figure in the room was often the one who spoke the least. Silence is not an absence, it is a container. It creates space for others to think, to reveal themselves, to lean in. A leader who fills every silence with their own voice is a leader who teaches their people not to think. The samurai understood that words, once released, cannot be taken back. They valued enryo, a gracious restraint, knowing that indiscriminate speech reveals insecurity and a lack of control. True authority resides in the power to listen, to observe, and to speak only when words will carry the weight of meaning. Kenji implemented this by imposing a strict discipline on his speech. In meetings, he would consciously wait 3 full seconds after someone finished speaking before responding. He began asking a single piercing question instead of offering a barrage of directives. What outcome would honor our purpose? What is the one obstacle we are avoiding? He found that his scarce words now carried immense gravity. His team members began to think more deeply before they spoke to him, bringing fully formed ideas rather than half-formed complaints. The silence was no longer awkward. It became fertile. It was in these quiet spaces that trust was built, and loyalty, not to a paycheck, but to a standard, began to grow. His silence was not passive, it was a deliberate, powerful force. Chapter 4. The Integration of Character. The final stage is the synthesis of these elements into Jinkaku, that fully integrated character. This is where Fudoshin, Gi, and Chinmoku cease to be techniques and become nature. The leader is no longer performing leadership. They are embodying it. Their authority is now a function of their being. They have become like the master swordsman Miyamoto Musashi describes, whose victory is assured before the sword is drawn, because it is won in the realm of spirit. This leader's presence communicates a profound message. Here is a person of resolve. Here is a person of action. Here is a person of consideration. To align with them is to align with a principle greater than oneself. For Kenji, the transformation was complete, not when he got a promotion, but when he stopped wanting one. His identity was no longer tied to the title, but to the quiet satisfaction of a team functioning with precision and mutual respect. A crisis that would have once shattered him became a moment of collective focus. He walked into the tense room, and his calmness became the group's calmness. He did not need to rally the troops. His unshakable presence was the rallying point. He had learned that natural authority is not about being in front, but about being the center. It is not about speaking to be heard, but about being so profoundly yourself that others choose to listen. The path to commanding without speech is, therefore, the most demanding path. It asks you to abandon the crutch of your title, the shield of your voice, and the weapon of your blame. It demands you turn inward and wage the only war that matters, the war for self-mastery. Build your Fudoshin, your immovable heart, through daily discipline. Let your gi, your righteous action, speak so clearly that your words become secondary. Employ Chinmoku, strategic silence, to create the space where true understanding grows. And from this, your Jinkaku will emerge, a character that does not seek authority, but attracts it. This is the way of Iki. This is the anatomy of a presence that moves the world, not by force, but by the undeniable gravity of a soul that is truly and silently commanded. The path to commanding without speech is, therefore, the most demanding path. It asks you to abandon the crutch of your title, the shield of your voice, and the weapon of your blame. It demands you turn inward and wage the only war that matters, the war for self-mastery. Build your Fudoshin, your immovable heart, through daily discipline. Let your gi, your righteous action, speak so clearly that your words become secondary. Employ chinmoku, strategic silence, to create the space where true understanding grows. And from this, your Jinkaku will emerge, a character that does not seek authority, but attracts it. This is the way of Iki. This is the anatomy of a presence that moves the world, not by force, but by the undeniable gravity of a soul that is truly and silently commanded. You have learned that true authority is not taken, but cultivated from within. It is built on the stillness of Fudoshin, the impeccable action of gi, and the powerful restraint of chinmoku. This is not a strategy for manipulation, but a philosophy for building an unshakable character that naturally commands respect. Now, a question for you. Reflect on your own life, in your work or personal relationships. Where are you currently the thrashing reed, and where can you begin to become the deep-rooted oak? Share your reflection in the comments below. If this journey into the principles of natural authority resonated with you, if you found value in this timeless wisdom, please let me know by leaving a comment. Your thoughts and engagement are what allow this channel to continue exploring these depths. Consider subscribing for more content that guides you in applying the discipline, philosophy, and inner strength of the samurai to the challenges of modern life. Thank you for watching and for walking this far on the path.